I'm Pat Doris. Welcome to The Story. So glad you're here. All the ways to communicate with us right there on your screen. You can email us, thestory@kgw.com, or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. We really want to know what you're thinking about, what your thoughts are, especially on this day. We're continuing the story home edition because I'm still following the COVID protocols. It'll be a few more days before I can be in the office, but I'm feeling fine, thank you. In the meantime, what a news day it's been. No matter which side of the abortion debate you're on, the leak from the Supreme Court really must have caught your attention. Let's go now to Blair Best with our big story.
By now, you've likely seen the news that the U.S. Supreme Court is expected to overturn Roe v. Wade. That's the ruling protecting abortion rights across the country. Last night, someone leaked a draft opinion indicating the court's conservative majority would vote to overturn it. Now, we know many of you have questions, like this one we got from a viewer who wrote, "I was wondering, if Roe v. Wade is overturned, how are women's rights protected in Oregon and Washington?" Well, it's a good question. First, let's go back to the beginning. So, how did we get here? Oregon and Washington had various laws regulating abortion before Roe v. Wade. Washington criminalized it in 1950, while Oregon passed laws in the 60s about when an abortion could happen. In 1973, the Supreme Court legalized the procedure across the country. That's when anti-abortion violence started. The first reported arson at an abortion clinic in the U.S. happened in Eugene in 1976. In 1985, bombs were mailed to 4 clinics in Portland. Then in the 90s, a woman from Grants Pass named Shelley Shannon set fire to clinics in Portland, Eugene, and Ashland, as well as clinics in other western states. She also was convicted of shooting a Kansas doctor who performed abortions. Shannon was released from prison in Oregon in 2018. In Washington, a clinic in Tacoma was bombed in 2001, and a Planned Parenthood in Pullman was set on fire in 2015. Since the 1980s, the number of abortion clinics in both states have decreased. In 1991, Washington passed a law protecting abortion in the state up until viability, when the fetus can survive outside the womb. In 2017, Oregon passed the Reproductive Health Equity Act, which required insurance coverage for abortion. Oregon is also one of just a few states with no legal restrictions on abortion, meaning it would remain legal if Roe v. Wade is overturned. In Washington, abortion would remain legal up until viability. And that's how we got here. So let's take a look at this map from the New York Times. It shows where abortion access is going to decline if the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade. If you live in Washington, neither your rights to an abortion nor your abortion access will change. In Oregon, your rights won't change. But if you live in Eastern Oregon, just a stone's throw away from Boise, your access to abortion will change significantly. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, Idaho will immediately make abortion illegal. Think about that. That means Eastern Oregonians, or people from Idaho, will have to travel much longer distances to get an abortion. That's why Planned Parenthood lobbied the Oregon legislature earlier this year specifically to get $15 million in funding to set up a clinic right at the Oregon-Idaho border. As of mid-April, Planned Parenthood had leased out a clinic in Ontario, only an hour away from Boise. As of a couple of weeks ago, that clinic was not yet up and running. In the meantime, Planned Parenthood leaders say they're prepared for a massive influx of patients right here in Oregon.
Our health centers in Oregon, the combined ones that we have, both of the health centers are expecting a dramatic increase in patient volume. The Guttmacher Institute, which is a great resource, estimated that we could see up to 234% more patients in Oregon. We are prepared. We have been working with our staff across the state in both affiliates to be prepared for what we think will be a high need, and we feel comfortable that we have the capacity to meet the need that we think we are going to see.
Now, it's a controversial topic that affects so many people, not just those seeking abortions. And while some people are terrified at the prospect of losing abortion rights, others are excited, saying they've been waiting for this for decades. But overall, Oregon has been preparing for a potential ruling like this for a while now. And those on both sides of the issue are ready to fight back. Take a look.
The news still hit me like a pile of bricks. This is really, really heartbreaking.
If this decision holds, we will celebrate it.
Portland pro-abortion rights advocates are bracing for what could happen if Roe v. Wade is overturned.
When we think about clamping down on access, I think we are basically seeing folks who are in elected office use that power to impose judgment. And for folks who are pregnant, we don't know the circumstances.
Christelle Allen at Pro-Choice Oregon believes abortion rights impact more than just women.
Abortion care is health care, and it really does impact all of us, all of our families.
For pro-life Oregonians and Americans across the country, this is what we've been hoping for since 1973.
Governor Kate Brown expressed her opinion in a tweet saying, quote, "All Americans should have access to abortion, full stop. Abortion is health care and protected by state law in Oregon. We will fight to keep it that way no matter what the Supreme Court decides." Senator Ron Wyden releasing this statement, saying in part, quote, "This is a 5-alarm fire. If this is the final decision, the United States will be one of a handful of countries in the world moving backwards on women's rights." A local clinic where abortions are performed also took to Twitter, reminding people they'll continue to do so, saying, quote, "Abortion is legal in Oregon and at the Lilith Clinic. We provide abortion care for all people, no matter where you live."
As a woman, as somebody with a uterus, it's very scary.
Oregonians also expressed concern about the draft.
I believe in everybody's freedom of decision in their own bodies.
I'm pretty terrified about it. I think that it sets us back quite a bit.
Again, this leaked document does not represent the court's final decision, and the fact that it was leaked is extremely rare. We don't know exactly when the Supreme Court will announce their final decision, but we can expect that it will be no later than the end of June.
We're only 2 weeks from Election Day, and abortion access suddenly has moved way up on the list of things that are important to folks when they're thinking about choosing the next governor. Today, we hosted our second debate with the City Club, and it had 4 Republicans who are running for governor. And of course, we had to ask them about the potential striking down of Roe v. Wade. And you might be surprised, they did not all have the same answer.
I happen to be pro-choice. I believe that is constitutionally protected right now, and I really urge the Supreme Court to uphold that. That being said, it's codified in Oregon state law, and so for me, you wouldn't see changes to this piece of Oregon law, and I think we need to support women's health. It's really an important part. Oregon is pro-choice. I'm pro-choice, and we should remain that way.
I believe that the Constitution does not protect in the Constitution a right to an abortion. I believe it's up to the states to decide, and Oregon has strong laws that currently protect their rights. So I will obey the law.
I would agree with the decision. I am pro-life. Like most people in the state of Oregon, I disagree with the policies we have in place now that allow abortions up to and including the moment of birth, taxpayer-funded abortions, and now millions of dollars allocated for what we are now referring to as abortion vacations for people outside the state to come in here, use our taxpayer dollars for their abortions.
This is the moment we've been waiting for. This is what all the work, the hard work, and the donations and the activism has been all about. The overturning of Roe versus Wade. I will sign any piece of pro-life legislation that comes across my desk. Any piece of pro-life legislation that we can restrict the abortions happening in this state, a state that's essentially become a tourism state for abortion. You can have abortions from conception all the way until the afterbirth of that child. I would sign any restriction that we can have.
Stan, you mentioned Right to Life. The anti-abortion group, Oregon Right to Life, did not endorse you. What's your response?
Yeah, I think it's gross, especially now when you consider, when you look at how the other candidates are answering this question, now that it's come true. This is the moment of truth, right? Where are candidates on this issue? I have 100% completed positive pro-life questionnaire in front of Oregon Right to Life. I have a history of activism on this issue. I certainly deserve the endorsement, and I think that they should look at it again.
They didn't endorse you, though, because other parts of your life didn't square with what they feel are conservative
with their mission?
Christian values.
Yeah, well, I apologize, Laura, but I don't see any of those things in their mission statement. Their mission statement is about protecting life, the sanctity of life, the life of the unborn, and I'm 120% advocate, for those issues.
If Roe v. Wade falls, would you support Oregon as a growing refuge where people from other states could legally obtain abortion, a growing refuge, and to what extent, if so?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think that we should be paying for other people's health care that don't live in our state. And I know that there was some dollars that were allocated recently for that purpose. I think we're going to see some changes. I don't know what they're going to look like. This decision isn't final yet. But in general, I think that we should keep our funding for healthcare for Oregonians. I would also like to mention, too, that we have these candidates here have all stated that they're in favor of medical freedom when it comes to mass vaccines. And it's really inconsistent. And I'd like to, point that out. I think this is about bodily autonomy, and I am supportive of medical freedom. That includes abortion, vaccines, and any other procedures that are legally available.
Pro-life issue, I think those of us on the pro-life view the issue as protecting life, and it's not a medical procedure in our mind, and that's in our view. So that's where the disagreement lies. And society has to move forward and make its decision. On the pro-life side, we're always going to push for life over death, and we don't view an abortion as a medical procedure, and that's the disagreement.
Christine Drazen was invited but did not attend. She dropped out just hours before the debate. Her campaign didn't really give a reason, but they did say that she's been involved in a lot of debates so far. She is endorsed by the Right to Life group called Oregon Right to Life, along with Bridget Barton and Bud Pierce. And as you heard, the PAC decided not to endorse Stan Pulliam. Drazen's campaign sent us a statement this afternoon saying the unprecedented leak of a yet-to-be-finalized U.S. Supreme Court opinion represents a grave attack on one of the core institutions in our country. I have never shied away from my pro-life values, but will wait for the court's official opinion before commenting further. Betsy Johnson, Tina Kotek, and Tobias Reed also sent statements, each supporting abortion access. You can watch the full Republican debate right now on our KGW YouTube channel, along with last week's Democratic debate between Tina Kotek and Tobias Reed. Here's my take on this, my opinion. Your vote matters. Your vote matters a lot. No matter whether you think potentially striking down Roe v. Wade is the worst thing you could ever imagine, or the answer to long-awaited prayer, your vote matters. Your vote decides who represents you in the legislatures of Oregon, Washington, Idaho. Your vote decides who represents you in Congress for those states as well. And if this really does get struck down by the Supreme Court, there's going to be tremendous pressure on Congress and state legislatures to make the next move. So your vote really does matter. Don't sit there and think, well, this is all a bunch of national stuff and I'm not going to play a role. I'm just one little vote. Nonsense. Your vote makes a difference. And here in Portland, people love to protest when big things like this happen. And yes, it's your right to protest. It's in the First Amendment of the Constitution. I get that. But in my opinion, if you're not willing to vote, I don't think you should protest. You should not be out on the streets yelling and clanking whatever to make noise and draw attention. The way to get attention is to vote. If you don't do that, I think you should stay home and be quiet. And if you don't like that, I think you should get out and vote. That's my opinion. What do you think? Am I full of it, or do you agree? Either way is fine. Shoot me an email. Let me know what you think. The email address is thestory@kgw.com. Our phone number is 503-226-5090. Call and leave a voicemail if you'd like. I look forward to hearing and reading what you have to say.